So I'm super excited to have Marissa Simonetti. Did I get her name right?
It's Simonetti. Yeah.
Simonetti. I
Yeah.
apologize. So
No.
excited to have her. I think she has a really interesting, diverse background. I think she can bring a lot of different perspective, definitely, as those who listen to me on tech. A little bit of introduction about her, and then I will hand it over to her so she can do more justice. But she is based in Minnesota, I believe, and also she is running for local office as well. She's going to be running for it, I think, in 2025 as well.
2026 is the big.
2026. Yes.
Yeah.
So she's going to be running for that. Um, she has a lot of different perspective, and I think we can talk more about how, efficiency is coming in all of tech companies. All the from government towards tech. What does that mean? So before we dive into a conversation, over to you, Marissa.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Imran. I'm excited to be here. My background, I'm a mother. My son is 7 years old. All of my 20s, I've been involved in a variety of different business ventures. I own rental property. I ran first time for political office in 2024 in a special election, and then I re-ran again. I lost by 1,000 votes. As someone coming out of nowhere in about 2 months. Beat out five other candidates, one of whom spent $71,000, and I spent less than 750 to beat him in. Yes. So that's one thing with kind of connecting things to business. I love being hyper efficient. That's very exciting to me because anybody can throw money at a problem, but to find that leverage and like a David and Goliath kind of element, oh my gosh, that's exciting.
That is actually super cool. So I want to let's dive into something, right? So I guess let's start with your first thing that you mentioned. So you ran for office in 2024, right?
Yeah.
Um, Tell us a little more about it. What is that for? Let's start from there and then we can, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was the most random thing. Do you ever have that experience where you feel in your spirit you're supposed to go a certain direction, but you don't know why?
That's true. I have that gut feelings. Yes.
You've had these gut feelings before?
Yeah, it's like you just feel like you want to do it, but you're like, I don't know why I need to do it. Like with
Yeah.
the podcast, I swear, like the whole reason for me was like, I should be doing it. But then I was like, what's the end goal? I don't have a effing end goal. I'm like, I think it's really important to have candid conversation. Too
You
much.
you
y-
feel in your spirit that you're supposed to go this direction and you're
y-
listening to your spirit.
yes.
It's like a trust and faith in
Yeah.
like higher power, universe, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you found any answers as to like why maybe?
You know, it's funny. I was asking you a question. Now you're asking me. That's funny. Well, so I'm on the hot seat now. You know what I would say, the whole reason I started with the podcast, I saw way, way much impact going across of all of tech. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like a lot of tech workers were getting impacted. They were getting laid off like drop of a hat, or even like, someone sneezes there, 1,000 people gone. And I was like, it's about time that we need to have a honest conversation, not corporate speak. Corporate is good. I think it puts us in a box. It was nice, you need to have rules and everything in places. That's fair, but you need to have a respectful, honest conversation when it comes to executive presence, AI and everything in tech. And I mostly saw like Marissa's like, here are 10 ways how I'm using tech. Here are 10 ways you can also become an executive. I was like, that's BS. Like, if you're going to be an executive, why do you have a course that you're selling? You probably are. Like it's like me saying, hey, there are 10 ways you can be a billionaire. And people were like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
What? So I think that is something that's spoken to me a lot. I haven't found the end goal, but I definitely feel like connecting with a lot of people and there are great people everywhere. I just want to
Yeah.
chat. I think
Yeah.
that's my goal for now. So I would say that's maybe there.
Yeah. The journey and like what's acquired and learned along the way.
Yes.
Yeah, somewhere down the road in some way that you don't yet know will be exactly what you need.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so back to you. That was a very hot seat question. What made you run for the office?
Yeah, I filed one day before the deadline. I found out about the position. the weekend before, the Friday before, and I was talking to my one friend and I was like, so just paying attention to what was going on in the community, seeing some things. I was like, I think this could be improved upon. And I was like, is anything open? I didn't really know.
Mhm.
Went down, filed. I was coming from a tennis lesson. I was in my little tennis skirt and hoodie. And I go into the government building. And I was like, do you know where you file for, Hennepin County Commissioner? And the information booth lady looked at me like, honey, HR's upstairs. She didn't take me serious, right? Because I
Oh,
don't look
wow.
like the typical political candidate, especially, right? I just had to fit it in my schedule. I'm a mom, paid the $50 filing fee, messaged my one friend who I know is involved in politics that night on Instagram. I go, hey, I lost a bet. I filed for office. And my
That
friend goes, come to this meeting, went with my friend, connected me with people. And then there were just people who literally like took my hand and like, I needed this information or that information. And then I just problem solved along the way. And it was very, very exciting. Very exciting.
wow. Wait, you said wait, huh, it costs $50.
So yeah, people don't realize they think there's this huge barrier to entry, financial, social, all of this to
Yeah,
file for
yeah.
office. The filing fee was $50 for what I ran for, Hennepin County Commissioner.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I thought it'll be okay, so I'll tell you where am I coming from. So normally when you file something in the newest, what do you call travel, right? So if you want to do any kind of paroles or anything, TPS, all that stuff, when you look for those, or like when you file for a green card and stuff, it costs like seven, $800, $1,000 or something like that.
Huh.
And when you tell me, oh, to run is $3, I'm like, that is so interesting. Because in my head, it would be like, oh, you have to pay like 500 or maybe 1,000 or $2,000. There's a process. You go into due diligence. Maybe there's some, I don't know, if they do some kind of background, like some biometrics. But you're saying none of that. $50, you filed, you're in. I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
You had to be a resident in the area and for like 30 or 60 days. But I was like, you don't, I, even when I was talking with my friend, I was like, do you need a bachelor's degree? Because I was still finishing
Yeah.
my psychology degree at the University of Minnesota. And I was like, okay, I was finishing my degree, running for office, being a mom, working. I was like, okay, I'm meant to go this way. I'm gonna do it.
Wow.
And yeah, it was when you follow your spirit, there is nothing more wild and
And
exciting.
and I see that you literally lost like 1,000 votes.
Yeah, so because there were six candidates, there was a primary where only the
Mhm.
top two would advance.
Yeah.
And nobody expected me to come out of nowhere and do as well as I did. The other top lady, she was a local state rep and known
Hmm.
like figure. And so yeah, when I beat out those other four, one of whom spent $71,000, that's why I was like, where I was like, okay, there's 2 weeks between then and the final runoff.
Hmm.
Let's let it rip. Like, let's see what this is
Wow.
all about.
So 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 let's talk a little bit more. This is actually very interesting. And I think I've had a lot of female founders. I've also had a lot of, female tech workers, corporate. And I think someone having like you, I'm very happy now.
Oh,
You're, single mom. You could inspire a lot of people. So let's talk about this. So I think when you ran for this, I guess how did you even like balance all of this? I don't know how much work it goes, like if
yeah,
there's another, a single mom or like even a single parent at this point,
yeah.
um, how do you balance all of that?
I was not balanced, and I'll tell you, like the one weekend, there's things called Senate districts, and there were four in my Hennepin County District 6. I spoke one weekend at three different events, and that weekend my son was with me, and my son, he's 6 at the time, he's 7 now. He just came with me. And I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go up and speak now. And he'd just like sit like really sweetly, or like we would like find a friend there. And people were so kind to us. Like, yeah, he came with me. And one thing I'll say, it's so beautiful. I went to his school and he had to go up front with other kids and do like a presentation. This was maybe a month ago. His confidence up there because our kids are watching. Like he was charismatic, he was silly, and I know that's a result of like it's scary to get in front of people, but I just brought him and I would come home that weekend. I remember coming home. I was so exhausted, I sat in bed and cried. Like it's tiring to balance it
Mhm.
all. So yeah, that's the real side of things. Like you button yourself up, you go and you do what you know you need to do, your duty, your responsibility, but it's a lot. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, no, that's for me. It's I can barely like. Well, it's hard for me to imagine, to be very frank. Like I would try to imagine, but then I'm like, I think I'll fail because I cannot keep up with my own stuff. So I do my podcast and a day job, and then you're like, hey, running for office, and I have a kid, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know. And you managed to play tennis in the middle of that. I'm barely able to do
Yeah.
that. So.
God sends people along the way to be kind and help, just when you need it. A lot of people were kind and went out of their way to help me. So
So
I couldn't have done it without that. Yeah.
So does it mean like for your 2026 that you're gonna run for office again, Um, let's talk about that. I think that's the, you did fantastic. Thousand
Yeah.
is not much. I think it's marginal, less than that. So what's your plan? And I believe your previous, I actually have a whole research I did a little bit.
Oh,
So it says like rebuilding safety through family values.
yeah.
Um, that is very interesting. I don't know if that was still the slogan and is going to be the still slogan. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so one thing like I value home and family and I see that as being like what really brings a wholesomeness to society. And when I put together my platform, that's just like what spoke to my heart. After the special election, I had to run again in November. So no
Mm,
matter who, and so I did that and it was a little bit more of an uphill battle. There's some challenges along the way. Um, but in 2026, I don't yet have clarity on exactly, but I know what position I'm going to be running for. I haven't announced it. It's going to be something statewide,
oh,
and it's going to be very exciting here in Minnesota. And that's what I know so far.
oh.
So,
Are you
yeah,
raising? Are you like currently raising? Like how does it? I'm actually very excited to ask those stuff. So I always
yeah,
hear, in the general elections that happen that hey, they raised. How does it work? Maybe you can like tell us a little bit fun. This is actually very
yeah,
exciting. And how much of this is, I'll tell you where am I going with this.
yeah,
Are you raising? How does that work? How does tech come into play? Now, that's my whole premise of my All This show.
yeah.
So I guess I want to love to understand that a bit more.
Yeah, so the data and connecting with the right people and having the right like systems is really important. And that will get you a huge amount of leverage. I have not started fundraising yet, and here's why. One, it's a year out. Two, as soon as you raise over a certain amount, you have to start with all the campaign finance, filings, all of that. In my spirit, it feels premature,
Hmm.
but um, one thing I've always experienced in my life, like literally whatever amount of funding I need, it shows up for me, even in the campaign that I ran. So yeah, there's people do fundraisers, you speak at events and people will write checks. Um, what do you see politically connecting to the tech space?
That's a very good question. So, trying to be balanced a bit more with my delivery. If I step back, right? So,
Yeah.
here's my thing. Okay, someone asked me finally a question at my own podcast. So, uh, nobody asked it. I am the questioner. I'm like the person who is like, hey, listening. I guess like when I look at the general elections or any elections, when I look at tech, I think that there's like the data space, right? Like understanding your audience, but in a much analytical perspective. Like, hey, this is, their income, this is what they value about. Um, there's certain demographics. So I think that when I look at that from data perspective, number one. The other perspective that comes to my mind, leveraging tech, is I guess this election was all about podcast. This election established that you need to be having candid conversations. And I think in the next election, in the next 4 years, my hunch is it will be probably tripling down.
Really?
People, yeah, I don't think
I
so.
didn't know
People,
that.
so if you look at this, what happened in this election, regardless of whoever was doing what, the fact that we have one candidate sitting through hours and hours of podcast, candid, unprepared questions, that connects with people versus scripted, you know, the same jargon. Here's your
Yeah.
script. This is your question. It didn't work. And that's my analysis. That's what I saw. And this was the year of podcasts. I guess all of the folks who I knew through like my connections who were there, who already are there in their life, which is fantastic, are in that room. But they're all podcasters or like candid conversations. I think in the next election cycle, whichever will happen, like you even see like Gavin Newsom. So I live in California. So he has his own podcast. And I think it's less about podcast as a tool.
Yeah.
It's like, can I trust this person? I think AOC is doing that with TikTok. I think she's the sane one at this point who's leveraging that. I'm not picking sides. I'm just being very analytical. Just want to call that
Yes.
out. Just disclaimer. I
Yeah.
don't care A, B, C, D, red, blue, green, white. I don't care. I think when it comes to that, it's the data and how you connect to people. So tech will have its place, social media, podcasts, how you distribution channels. I think the third part is how do you leverage AI? When I say AI, specifically in, I don't know, uh, it could do like for example, if I want to prepare for a guest now, I actually do deep search Marissa. I was like, hey, I want to prepare for her. What should I ask this? So I've already trained my chat and it knows exactly what my, whole thing is. And so it's like, hey, this is what I found out. Could be interesting. This is what I found out. Be cautious. Don't talk about this. And
Yeah.
the fact that I can do that, I think that's great tool for any politician or any person running for corporate office or any kind of office in this world could leverage that. So that's where my question came to you is like, how are you seeing things? Are you thinking of that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually so I feel like maybe some of these tech things are I'm still learning and I
Hmm.
recognize that as a newer candidate. The party, at least I ran under the my race was nonpartisan, but I was more on the conservative side and you got to pick one, right, for a little bit of
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
They don't, the support is not there, whether it's data or whatnot. And I really relied heavily on social media, Twitter, TikTok, and I steer away from like arguing or contentious things.
Yeah.
Like my stuff is more lighthearted and fun. And um yeah, I think this is a blind spot. So that's why I'm very interested in what you have to say about this because I'm also learning as we have this
No,
conversation.
like that's actually my that's literally my hottest take I can ever have is I think in previous elections, if you look at this, like we're talking about it now, right? So they're all like, hey, you have to be on these news show. Like think about it. So with Biden and I think Trump when they were running, it was like
Yeah.
these news channel, this news channel. You already know you have Fox and CNN. Traditional media is a waste. It's
Yeah.
scripted, it wastes. Doesn't matter who you support, what you support. I think what they do is they just fuel the fire. They're
Exactly.
like, they don't
Yes.
do anything better. And it's like, hey, I don't want to trust the other party. Watch one of them. But if you want to have a really candid conversation, I think these podcasts like All In Podcast, Lex Friedman, the what's his face? Geez, Joe Rogan, all of these podcasts. Yeah, Joe Rogan is more entertaining. I understand. He has hot takes, weird takes. That's fine. I respect him. He is gonna build a famous brand. But I'm saying people want to see that.
Yeah.
Like people want to see this. Like,
Yeah.
hey, Imran is asking a question. He's tech. Oh, who's this guy? Oh, wow, interesting. Why did he get And people are driving and listening it. Like when I see my results of people who are listening, I'm not there yet, but I've had I think around 13,000 plays. Most of my audience is mixed. Um, and they're listening like 30 to 40 minutes of average time. And I'm
Wow.
definitely sure they're driving their cars or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. That's one. And I think X is picking a side right now. it would be great. It should be median. Um, TikTok is median. I'm assuming. I don't know. But I think these platforms, and when you look at this, that's why I'm like, hey, there's a huge play of tech. And I think tech was very
Yeah.
much involved in even funding as well.
Mm,
Once I was very heavily tech. It was very
yeah.
obvious.
Yeah. Um, yeah, totally, because you can put in your link tree your Win Red or Win Blue link. And
Hmm.
people from social media, they're like, oh, like this person feels real. And it sounds like that's what you're realizing is people are starting to be like so my degree is in psychology and
Hmm.
like trauma and how you recalibrate all of that. And you can feel that people are like energetically burned out from like the constant drama and fighting, and it's like they want something like even if it's not perfect but just that feels like a little more honest and real, and that's where people are shifting to. So you have the opportunity to do that on social media and include people in like last yesterday this morning I posted a video. I took my son roller skating last night,
Oh,
and there's
wow.
a video of roller skating, just like this is we're real people. We go out roller skating.
No,
And
no,
I
no.
yeah,
Th-
yeah.
that's a good one. And I think like it's a very interesting point you're talking, and you have major in psychology, so probably you know better. Um, do you feel that I'm trying to see how do I ask this? I guess I'm just gonna ask, do you think people who are elected officials, both sides, three sides, independent too, right?
Yeah.
They're out of touch. Are they really out of touch?
I would say no, because I think the market
Hmm.
speaks.
Hmm.
Like if you have a product and people don't buy it,
Yeah.
that's your problem. Either your marketing's wrong or people don't want it.
Do
So,
you do you think
yeah,
one of the side is out of touch?
I, I think there's enough of a 50-50 split. Do you think that here's what I think. It's not that they're out of touch, it's that they have the correctly curated message and people are still a little bit struggling to filter through what's truth and illusion. And this year the illusion is really falling away. Bless you. Yeah. Do you think that people are out of touch? You do.
I think like people are not out of touch. People just don't care that much, and they just take hearsay. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter who you are. And I think when I look at tech, I'm a very tech guy.
Yeah.
Um, I like before we started, I even mentioned, hey, this is what I was doing, and you were like, oh wow, were you? So, and for me, it's like tech is there to democratize.
Yeah.
Everybody should have power, the freedom to do what they want, how they want to do they want, as long as you're not harming anyone.
Yeah.
And so when I look at tools like Grok, GPT, all these tools coming out, a simple deep research, I'm not saying is the best, but it can get us 90% of the answer. It can fact
Ah,
check a drop of a hat. At least if not fact check 100%, I'm saying 90%.
okay.
And so, but then you see that this is me. Do you think an average person does it? I have a friend, when we get into an argument, I'm like, let me just do a fact check. He's like, don't do it. Why you irritate me? It's like, dude, why? Isn't that the whole discussion that I need to fact check what you're saying? Is that making sense?
Yeah.
And no, I don't think so. People do that. People want to do that, but they don't do that.
Okay, so what I found a lot of these bear, even with running for office, it's the how. So if someone wanted to fact check and use Grok, how would they do that? Teach us.
So this is so funny. Marissa, you're literally turning this around now. So
No, I wanted to
uh,
have a fun conversation
I
with
know,
you,
I know, I know, I
right?
know. So,
Yeah.
for example, right? So, if you want to know, I don't know, we need a good question. So, let's say if I want to know, hey, does sparkling water has X, Y, and Z? A normal people, like a normal person, would just write that. I'm a little bit more descriptive. It's like, hey, I got this thing from Whole Foods. This is the brand. This is the ingredients. Put the photo in. Hey, find me if there's anything toxic in here.
Okay.
and give me more detail. And then I click on deep search and boom, it just, does its own fancy stuff. And then, that's basically agents. I can talk more about that, but it goes in searches and then boom, spits an answer. Like for you, I was like, hey, can you find me enough of stuff about her so I can have this conversation? And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, professional background, political candidacy, notable roles. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. This is good content. And then it gives me references out.
Ah, so it
So
has
I
links.
know, yeah, I literally have these links from I have to do work if I mention them, but
Yeah.
like the platform where we connected, one of the famous media companies. And so it really gives me the link, literally the local news, the international news, and it's at the palm of my hands.
Yeah. So they people go to grok.com.
At this point, that's what I did this morning
Okay.
also. So let me just type it again if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's give people something like grok.com.
Yeah. So you would just go
Okay.
to
Okay.
grok.com. You can just sign up. It's Elon's thing, by the way, just FYI.
Ah,
And it's pretty good. It's up to par.
okay.
ChatGPT, and or you can go to ChatGPT. Either or you want to pay to
Okay.
leverage these tools is like $20, and I think the other one is $50. You get X
Okay.
premium. Um,
Oh, okay. So it
yeah.
comes with
So,
X. Oh,
so
it comes with X Premium.
yeah. So you have X
So
premium, right?
a lot I do, and a lot of
Okay,
people
there you
might
go.
not know what comes with it. I didn't know.
Yeah, so you get blue check mark and all that visibility, but then you can actually get Grok. So you just log in with your X account. You should be able
Oh,
to use it. It's super cool, and they also have this voice
yeah.
stuff. But I'm not here promoting that. I don't work for that company.
Well,
But
yeah, but this is a useful tool that like
yeah,
I didn't even know that I had with X Premium or could use. And so someone who has it can go in, then you also put in a high quality question is
yeah.
what like I notice. You
I
put that in and it gives you what you need.
yes, you want to make it a bit more articulated. You can't just be like, okay. I'm very like I try to be as much as concise and descriptive so I know what I really want. So that's what the prompts are for. So that's again, like going back to the whole thing. That's why I feel like I think there's a huge play of tech,
Yeah.
especially in what you will do in 2026. I'm like, I wonder. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, how is Grok different from ChatGPT?
You know, that's a good question. Uh, that's a deeper question. But the thing is, like, OpenAI owns ChatGPT and Grok is owned by xAI.
Okay.
Um, xAI is has its own plenty of compute, and I can go deeper into that. So I think they have a lot of GPUs to run this, their model. So they're training a lot. I'm just gonna like high level it up a little bit. They are figuring out the operator, the agent side, how everything will work, how they will connect, the deep search. They're also working on the voice activation. So it's pretty much same. The
Okay.
difference that lies into is how you train it and how you build your own models. So a model is like the underlying, basically, their different LLMs are being powered, right? And so each of them are crafted very differently. The data could be the same, but the fact is, how have you crafted, right? So Meta has one, which you can kind of play in like Facebook. Um, you have Meta, you have Microsoft. I haven't played with Microsoft one. You have Claude, which is owned by Anthropic. So there are many of them, and they all of them train differently.
Sure.
Um, Now the upcoming thing is that with these AI tools, you can, I don't know, GPT is talking about like OpenAI just is thinking to charge $50,000 a month or $20,000 a month for a premium model that you can use off the bat. And it's good as, a software engineer.
20,000 US dollars.
Yes, a month.
So this would be a business application.
Yeah, so that's the funny part. So they want to get there, and I'm like, I don't know. Like that's a I have it like it's in the news this morning, or I think this last week. If I just search OpenAI, let me just find it also.
Yeah.
Um, I gotta find it because they have this model that they're trying to see if they can sell it for 20,000. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
And why this all is making sense for me is let me just try to find it for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, that has to be pretty sophisticated to charge that kind of price.
Yeah, so it's a specialized AI agent,
Yeah.
basically a robot in a sense, for those who may listen, because I'm assuming for your audience as well here that,
Yeah.
just want to high level it up. So they're saying a high income knowledge worker agent, 2,000 a month, a software developer agent, 10,000 a month, a probably rumored pricing for a PhD level research is $20,000 per month, which is kind of interesting. I'll see, they
Yeah.
lost $5 billion last year. So when I look at that, Marissa, and I'm like, you're raising, well, let's say you're raising, is this something that you would leverage? Hmm.
Yeah. And how could it be leveraged? Yeah. This is where
Uh,
I'm somebody to take my hand and help me.
no, 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 no. I'm like, I don't know. This podcast is like more about me, but I guess I
Anybody's
will.
listening
I'll
and you have
answer.
a solution.
I will answer that one. I will definitely answer that one. I think the ways that you can leverage definitely is researching. Like who are you competing against? Getting as much as data. Um, you know, deep search in the candidates that you're competing with. I think that's fair. Understanding the demographics of your state, or of your city, of your
Yeah.
county. I think those tools would be great. Um, Depending on how much you raise, having a dedicated person who leverages Chat GPT's um, API, which is, you just connectors in a sense. I'm just trying to numb it down a little bit simple. But like you can just have those connected and then you can feed in data of any publicly available data to do those research.
So, like,
Um,
because Grok is connected to Twitter and all these candidates are on Twitter, hypothetically, I could be like, write the biggest burn post against boom, boom.
technically, yes, you can do that. There is a possibility that you can do that. You can actually, I'll top you a little bit one. So I was playing last week with HeyGen. I trained it on my 5 minute of content avatar. And I was moving my hands. I don't know if you noticed. I move my hands on. That's how I
Yeah,
express. And
yes.
my hand was moving like this continuously. It did a good job. I was speaking Russian, Ukrainian. I just wrote that just
You
to
speak
see
Russian?
a little. Well, I was learning Russian a little bit, so I know a little bit of that. But then I was like,
You speak English, Russian.
no, no. So I speak English. I speak Urdu. I can read Russian. I can little bit just say a few words in Russian. I can read Arabic, but back home we're not taught Arabic. It's
You
weird.
can read Arabic, but you can't speak it.
Yeah, that's a different chapter for a different life.
That I haven't heard that one before.
It
Most people can
happens.
speak but not read.
It's more a cultural norm that you want to learn Arabic. Since it's mostly, a Muslim religion, and so Arabic, and so you're motivated or not motivated, you're encouraged to learn in school. And my
Mm.
complaint is like, why teach something when you can't understand? So when I want to read my religious books, I try to read them well, not try, I actually read them in English, literally. Like I can read in Arabic, but I don't understand. And so I don't know. I don't have an answer for you this one. This is actually you can ask my forefathers and their forefathers why they came up with this. I think it's disservice to the people. But anyways, going back to the conversation, that I think it would be interesting that you can use these agents in like I don't know,
The
for
Grok one, my mind's already starting to go. See,
you
this
should
is why I love talking to people. This is,
You
yeah.
should check it out. I think you should definitely check it out. I think it's great. So even with HeyGen, but I don't know how would that be because it could be like right now I can train it. So you can train your own. It's super simple. Take a 5 minute video of you just talking. It will train on a voice. It will train on your avatar, and then you can write anything, and it will just speak for you. Now, it's a bit creepy, but it works. It's good for customer service. It's good for other things, like customer service and all that stuff. But I don't know how good is it for your political campaign if you're running for that. People will be like, I don't know if I can trust her. She's That's fake.
I'm
Um,
gonna say the AI version of me is just gonna say something out of pocket. I'll be like, it wasn't me. I don't know what
yeah, it
happened.
wasn't me. It's an AI trained, but who trained it? Well, I
A
did, but it
robot
wasn't for me.
takeover.
Well, no, no, it's just hilarious. But going to a different angle. So we spoke about your background, all of that stuff. And this, and let me see how am I doing on time. I guess I'm fine. So this is my last question,
Yeah.
or topic. Um, as you're running an office, right? So right now you're running, and you see a huge efficiency narrative, across. When I say across, is across private, is across public and private sectors.
Yeah.
Um, how do you see that playing in your precise, I guess, running for office? Like, is that a narrative that you have that, hey, we need to be more efficient? I guess I'm just asking that because I met a few friends yesterday and they were like, hey, some things are good, it should happen. Some of them are like, no, so it's a very interesting. Um, so yeah, we're just curious.
Yeah. Having like I have a business background, and so like the goal is always to be like a wise steward of the things that you have. Um, and I think people are really starting to feel like most people who you talk to, financial pressure.
Mhm,
um, to be able to like here, like even we have good cost of living in Minnesota, but a lot of people are noticing that groceries have gone up substantially, or like utilities, like the basic needs. So at least in my mind, and I could be wrong, but the natural progression of that is okay, well, let's not raise our taxes any further. Let's do what we can.
hmm.
Um, So I mean, it remains to be seen, but the principle of being a good steward, I'm not sure how we can all go wrong with that. And then it enables people to have more, to have the joy of giving back on their own terms. And one thing I got to do recently was go out with some friends. My one friend owns a pizza restaurant here in Minnesota, very good pizza. And then his friend has a channel that's about giving back. And I didn't know, I just knew my friend who did the pizza. And we went out and we handed out, he donated pizzas to the homeless.
Hmm.
And that was just like a really cool experience to see how just you can be kind to people, and that can change someone's day, change someone's life, like put them on a totally different trajectory than they may
Hmm.
have. So, yeah, giving people the financial bandwidth by being efficient in the government that they can have the joy of giving and changing someone's life.
And do you think like when you look at so you mentioned one thing that hey, it's not doesn't make sense to raise taxes, work with what we've got. Does it make sense to look at it from, I'm going to bring it in again, a tech perspective?
Yeah,
Um, because when I look at efficiency, I'm like, hey, it's less about reducing people, is how do you make them productive? So like there's this narrative with AI, and I'll give you the background so you can
yeah,
help me answer this. So the narrative with AI is gonna eliminate jobs. It'll eliminate people, and people are afraid. I understand.
yeah,
Like if you hurt someone's bread and butter, it sucks. My narrative is like we're not there yet. And if we are there yet, then I guess there's a trickle down effect. Like, okay, then who's working? But I think there's a way that all these tools could be used to make individuals, agencies more efficient, more productive. That's what I mean. Like,
yeah,
let's say an agent is spending, I don't know, let's say a federal worker is spending 10 hours just clicking and doing stuff. Could there be a way to optimize stuff where they're not spending that much time and everything is compiling for them? I don't know, I'm just randomly making stuff up. Where the operations
yeah,
are, you're cutting time in their operations and making them more productive. Does it make
yes,
sense? Like the fact that I do a deep research and I get something in like 5 minutes,
yes.
normally it would take you 20, 30 minutes.
Yes.
So,
So you have a mindset of a business owner who is paid for their results, not for their time.
hmm,
And that making that transition takes on like a leadership who can weather some of that uncertainty because that can feel scary to people. It's like going from
hmm,
the known to the unknown. And I think the more productive we can be, like let's maximize, like people are everything.
yeah.
So if we can empower them to grow and use tech to do that, that's incredible.
So what's the reception then in Minnesota? I will ask you this one last question then. Then what's
Yeah.
the reception if, let's say, I don't know what you're running for, you haven't disclosed that, and that's fine. Um, yeah, if you were to do this, what's going to be the reception? Do you think you're gonna win based on that, that hey, you know what, people want me to do that, or you will face, pushback? But I have, just FYI, I have zero understanding
Yeah.
about Minnesota. I'll be very honest. My
Yeah.
only understanding is limited to California.
Yeah.
That's where I've lived, a little bit of New York. That's it. Nothing else. So I'm deferring to you to educate me at this point, and anyone who's listening to me on the tech side as well.
Yeah. I actually haven't considered that. One, it's a year out, and two, it's the same exact feeling. It's like I have this prompting in my heart that I'm supposed to go this way.
Hmm.
And it's like you just follow in faith, like what you're supposed to do. And whatever I needed to address this year of time is for me to address and make my life the best it can be so I can have the most to give and contribute. So we will see. Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So I get it. You're gonna table it for later. I get it. But
Yeah.
no. Before we depart, I always ask all my guests. Um, I don't know. Like I always ask them, like, hey, suggestion or advice. But do you have any parting thoughts
This is
that
just
would benefit?
parting thoughts that would benefit people.
Hmm.
One thought that I had in my mind today is um, when you're true to yourself, like a lot of people look for excitement in a lot of things, right?
Hmm.
And there is nothing more exciting in life than telling the truth about where you stand and being true to yourself because you don't know what other people are going to do, but you know that you've like made the highest and best choice that's true and in alignment for you. And that's a very exciting life to live. So, yeah, just
Y-
you look a
Yes.
little scared, not so sure about it.
No, I'm just saying, like, there are repercussions if you're,
Yes,
yeah.
to being honest, there's totally, but you have to be true to yourself.
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair. I don't
Yeah.
disagree. I agree. I guess yes, that's true. I think that's great. I'm like thinking
The
now to myself.
repercussions, your
Uh
mind is
like
running.
no, no. No, no, but this is great. I think Marissa, I had the most fun conversation, and okay, if I say this then my other guests will be like, what the hell do you mean? I guess I had the most exciting and the fun and different conversation. The fact I don't have to talk about tech for a day. Well, I did with you, but on a different perspective is
Yeah.
very interesting. Would love for you to come back when you run for, you know, office. Would love to see from your perspective. And I know you'll be busy. I'm definitely sure. Not that,
Yeah.
but if you use tech, I think you definitely should um, record that, how you're gonna leverage. And when you win, you want to publish that. That'll be fun.
Oh,
That'll be an interesting research. Like, think about it. Like, hey, this is what people cared about. This is what I leverage. And if you want to really make things mattered, and I want to, so
yes.
here's this playbook. And I think would be interesting for, I guess, people across the United States and maybe
Yeah.
around the world. I don't know.
How to repeat something. I'm thinking how to use Grok. That's my mind, when your mind starting to
I
like
have a
marinate.
feeling that after this podcast, you're gonna be like, "Hey, this guy. Hey, so how is this?" I'm like, well, you go to this like, no,
You
no,
changed my life, Grok.com.
no. This is great. This is great, Marissa. Thank you for joining. What's the time where you're joining us from, actually?
It is almost 4:30. p.m.
Oh,
here.
so you're 2 hours ahead. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Marissa. Glad to have you.
This has been fun. Thanks so much.